Hey guys, this is Bill Combs.
And Jeff Newton.
And this is the Flashbang Creative Podcast.
Hello everybody, and we are back again. So right off the heels of our last episode, which was on hacking, going to kind of take a little bit different angle to that, but it's definitely in the same vein. So that's why we thought it would be a great topic to follow up to that one. And the topic for today's episode is crowdsourcing, whether that be crowdsourcing your content, crowdsourcing your feedback, crowdsourcing your evolution, crowdsourcing just in general, period. So maybe we should start with a bit of a definition of what we are talking about when we talk about crowdsourcing. So the context that I mean when I talk about crowdsourcing is essentially getting other people to tell you, show you, provide for you, deliver to you the things that you want or need, so that you're not having to do all the work. Because again, back to leverage, back to using resources or being resourceful, your people, whether it's coworkers, whether it's partner, whether it is the students, or whether it's your prospects, they are more than willing to give you everything you need to edge out success and get one step further. It's just a matter of asking them correctly.
Or knowing how to ask.
Yeah. So let's dive in first. Let's set the stage. We're going to talk again about more the instruction angle, although it doesn't have to deal with instruction, but that's the context for the examples that we're going to use today.
I'll take it. I'll lead us into this. So Jeff came up with this topic. It's a really great topic. And as we started writing down bullet points, I just sort of, closed my eyes and was thinking, okay, how am I going to do this in the class? So I'm not wasting any time. I'm not doing anything out of the ordinary. You're hosting a course. How can I begin to gather intel that they want to know? So what I thought of is I would hand out a piece of paper at the beginning of the course, and I would kind of ask them to write down some topics that they would like to hear or were hoping to hear in your course. That way it's sort of just fresh off the, out of their unstimulated mind as they show up in the morning to your course. And then at the end of the course, I would ask for them to, obviously cross out as things were addressed, but then add any additional topics or anything else that they would like to know. And that's how you're going to fine tune your material. And then the other thing that I would make sure that I did. This was something that just sort of happened while Jeff and I were talking about it prior to recording. Make sure you have their valid email address, not their junk email that they may or may not have registered for your course with because they didn't want to get spammed. But at the end of the course, make sure that they throw on there their primary email address, because you're going to either get back to them on their other ideas, or eventually you'll offer some follow-on courses to address any of these topics. So once you fine-tune your course, there shouldn't be too many unanswered questions, or there should be fewer. And then again, the big hit there is make sure every time that you have a course that you double tap and make sure that you have their best or primary email address. And the other thing is, if you ever did a special where it was, buy one get one free, basically bring a friend, you might not have captured that friend's email address, or somebody might have reserved 2 seats in your course. Maybe it was like a father-son or a father-daughter or a husband-wife. Well, you only have one of their contact info, so you want to double tap on that and make sure that you're getting intelligent data so that you can further engage them down the line.
Yeah, and there's different ways to diffuse the ask or the request for that information too. You know, maybe it's just a quick one sheet with a few different questions, and you preface the request for their contact information as, you know, before we hit the range later today, you know, making sure that you had emergency contact info and some actual personal information or whatnot. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to do it, but you would be surprised as receptive people will be to you if you're transparent with them to begin with. So if you were to stand up in front of the class and say, you know, that you're a real person and that you're not after their email address to send them all the BS that they otherwise wouldn't want, but it's just to build a relationship and offer them things in the future, whether it be a follow-up training or some deliverables like the course content that we've talked about before, sending them your slide deck or, you know, a worksheet or some dry fire drills or whatever it happens to be, something that they want. It's still a trade, so give them something that they see as value in exchange for the email address.
Yeah, and actually I thought of something while you were talking. Again, I was thinking about what I was going to say instead of what you were saying. But
welcome to our lives.
Yeah, I mentioned that I would give them a blank sheet of paper. Maybe that's not a good idea. You know, I'm just kind of free thinking this here, but I've been to courses or been in classes where at the end the instructor gives you a sheet that says rate me 1 to 5 and any additional comments, and I never write anything. That's because there were no questions. If somebody asks you a question, you fill in an answer. You know, was my training material adequate? You know, or my posters on the wall or my props or anything like that. Pose a few questions to sort of, you know, get their mind to fire in the direction you want it to, and maybe you'll get better results than just rate my instruction, rate the material.
Well, and if you think about each one of your classes as a performance that you give, that's kind of the beauty of it when you sit down to think of which questions you're going to ask them. What's your performance going to be like? What do you include and what don't you include? Think about how you deliver your class, and then ask yourself questions. You know, if I wanted to do X, Y, Z better, what answers or what questions would I want or need to know the answer to? And because it's already a prescribed play, so to speak, you can sort of do that foreshadowing to take on the English side of this, the foreshadowing piece with the student by asking all those questions up front on the form. And they may not fill in the answer until they get to the part of class where you actually hit that area of the topic, and then they have something worth writing down. I had something else I thought of too, but go ahead, Bill, and I'll think of it and interrupt you.
Yeah, you think of it while I'm talking.
Yeah.
So other ways to crowdsource. So obviously you've got in your course while you're there. That would become an SOP for me. I would always do that. You know, if anything, so that I know that I've got their valid email address, so that I can circle back to them later for a way to get them into some more of my courses. But another way to do it would be, again, through social media. Establishing that Facebook page that's for your brand, and then once you have so many followers, you engage them, you ask them questions. Don't always just, you know, show them things or, you know, tell them things or demonstrate things. Ask them things, and that in turn is, you know, that's going to give you some intel.
And a fantastic way to do that is by using some of the built-in tools that Facebook gives you, like creating a poll. Or there's actually a function to pose a question to a group. And so, you know, use those tools and use those assets to actually stimulate engagement on the page. And the other thing I thought of as Bill was talking, because I was listening to him and not thinking about what I was going to say, was... oh shit, I forgot it now anyways. Nope, there was. No, I forgot it. Go ahead.
The polls is a great idea. I hadn't thought of that. And then the other thing, Facebook also has Facebook Live. To me, that's the easiest thing you could do. You know,
the most vulnerable thing you can do, but the easiest thing you can do.
It puts a face on you.
Yeah.
You know, that's why we do this podcast. You know, it allows you to know who we are. You know, I mean, we talk to you regularly, and you're able to see that, you know, through the bullshit and know that we're just, you know, hopefully you see us as, you know, genuine individuals who are just trying to help. And the same thing would go with you going Facebook Live, and all you do is talk. You use your smartphone, which most people have smartphones now. I don't know if most do, but a lot of people do. and you just hit the record button and pose a question or a topic and ask for feedback.
Oh, now I remember what it was. Don't just sit there and try to sell them stuff. People, this goes back to something we talked about in one of the recent episodes, which is you need to understand which state of mind your potential customer is, your prospect is, when you're producing information or when you're, talking about these types of things. In other words, people don't go to social media to think about buying a firearms course. Now, if they happen to click on something that was entertaining to them or that gave them value, that happened to then eventually lead to, oh, here's the course calendar and sign up if you'd like, kind of a thing, they're much more positioned to consume your content and become a customer if you engage them through other means first. So, everyone's pretty much guilty of it when we first start out. You create your page or your group and you just start posting everything you have, right? It's almost like the multi-level marketing schemes, the pyramid schemes, and everybody probably has someone in their life that has had some sort of experience with it, where the first thing they do is turn around to all their friends and family and say, oh, you got to buy into this. Oh, you got to buy into this. There's all this to don't be that guy. Don't use your page in that way.
Provide them with information too, like current events. Some of the most popular posts that we've ever done is to share current events that are firearms related. And I'll even give my source. The ones that I use the most is Bearing Arms. It's an awesome firearms related website. I hope it doesn't go away. Tragically, the founder of the website passed away. I don't really remember the cause, a couple months back, but there was always 2A news, but then there's also a little tab that says Gun Saves Lives, and you click on that tab and I don't know how the heck this guy sourced all this stuff, but it's countless articles, like almost daily examples of a concealed carry, individual saving someone's life, or, thank God they had a gun in their nightstand. They put down a home invader. It was all relevant content that would obviously, behoove an instructor to push this stuff out, because it does trip that fear, indicator on people. I mean, but look at how mainstream media works. It's all fear oriented nowadays. None of it doesn't use any other emotion other than fear. Doom and gloom sells. It grabs people's attention. And so if you can point out, like, holy shit, there's all these home invasions going on, throughout the country, or, muggings, or, stabbings. Thank God they had their gun. That's going to get people to want to, up their game and get some training.
Yeah, jumping back in, I'm sitting here thinking about what I was going to say now and not listening to you, Bill. And I was thinking back the point of the podcast, which was crowdsourcing, and I don't want to get way off topic like I can with rabbit holes. But anyway, crowdsourcing, to dive back into that topic, one of the thoughts that I had, again, around requesting or asking people to ultimately provide you content, whether that be a review, whether that be a photo of them with their certificate later, or a picture from behind the scenes on the range, or sitting in class, or just even a post, right? Doesn't even have to be a picture or anything. It could just be someone checking in to wherever you're holding class on social media, which pushes it out there. There are ways to go around, not to go around, but to introduce that to your group of students so that it doesn't seem sleazy or salesy or desperate or anything else. And one of the easiest ways to do it is to kind of use the elephant in the room example of, if you bring it up first and give them permission to check in or post about them, or here's our hashtag, like us, follow us, here you go, at the beginning of the class, then you just primed that line with them, or that mental avenue for them to, one, feel free and feel okay and feel validated by interacting with you on any of your platforms. And simply just by giving permission to someone first, and even using that word up front, I give you permission to, boom, here's our hashtag, here's where you can find us, written on a whiteboard or something ahead of time. You almost use a psychology hack on them and almost steer them to use that behavior or exert that behavior or do that thing that they wouldn't have otherwise done simply because you gave them permission to do so.
That's true. And back to what I was talking about, I don't mean to do this, but I did get off topic. The reason why I was talking about posting current events and things like that is the way that you're crowdsourcing this is you're going to ask people to like and share this if it resonates with them. And so what you're doing then is you're expanding your influence. They're seeing, man, this guy pumps out some great content. My buddy at work, he's way into firearms too. I need to, tag him in this in the comments section or share this to my, Facebook wall. And that way all of my friends, family members, and, people that I'm friends with on social media can see this also. And that's going to generate a lot more people following your feed. And some of them won't be local. So it's not going to be a hit as far as a sale. But hopefully a lot of them are. The ones that are local are going to start seeing, you showing up in their feed a lot and hopefully take a course with you. So you're basically leveraging the content that you're putting out and asking for people to participate in it. And in turn, that's going to generate more followers for you, which hopefully equals more dollars in your pocket, more seats filled.
Yeah, another psychology hack on that particular method, so to speak, as well. So if you're going to be asking for people's input, there's a word you should use and a word you shouldn't use. If you ask for somebody's feedback versus asking for someone's advice, you will get it's like 300% more engagement by asking for someone's advice versus someone's feedback, just by changing that one word. So, think about that when you're putting it out there, because, and I could go into the psychology behind it, but it's a different show. But anyways,
probably boring.
Yeah, it probably is.
But
you wouldn't be listening to it anyways.
Effective nonetheless. Yeah.
On that note, leverage social media. The other point I was going to make on that whole thing when you're asking for people's advice is to just really understand the value in the feedback, the dirty word, the advice you get from them, right? So there's no better marketing insight, behind the scenes level instincts you can acquire than hearing it straight from your consumers' mouths. So don't discredit what they're saying. If you don't understand, then ask them to clarify and simply use those words. You'd be amazed at how effective the words "help me understand" are, because they're non-defensive and they don't challenge it, but the other person will be more than willing to go further with their point in an effort to help you understand, which is another psychology thing, because humans want to help humans. But again, that's probably boring, so Bill doesn't want to hear about it.
I just don't want to hear the textbook version. I like to hear that application and how it helps me help you.
Nice. So back onto the asking of permission, right? I think that's where I left off before we went on tangents again. But hey, all our tangents come back to the right area. So
that's right.
There's value in all of it. Think of ways to engage the audience, which are your students, and encourage them or give them permission to create their own content that will ultimately be shared back to you in your circle. So whether that's pictures, of them getting in their car or unboxing their firearm, or the new holster they bought for the concealed carry piece, or, the new optic they got to put on their rifle for, the long range class a month from now. I mean, think about all the things that are going in their head and just, put it out there first. Because again, if you lead them, people inherently and silently want to be led. So if you lead them, you would be amazed at the control that gives you.
A great example that I thought of with that, because that's a great idea. Include them in the conversation. So one place that I follow, just because on Instagram, just because I'm kind of a gearhead, is like, you could set it up where you did like Pocket Dump Tuesdays or something like that. And so on Tuesdays, and this is just an example, you show what your everyday carry is. I've got my side or my gun here. I've got, this little deal on my keychain. I've got a knife. I've got a flashlight. I've got, maybe a medical kit, I don't know, however deep you want to go. Some people, maybe nothing, but include them in on the Pocket Dump Tuesdays, and that's getting them engaged. And then their friends and, those that they're friends with on Facebook or on social media are going to see them engaging in your, regular content. And so more people are going to get involved. And, that was a great thing. And plus it's relates to what you do.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, that goes back to the key that we've talked about before on social media stuff, which is ultimately engagement. Don't put things out there in a passive voice around, talking through or explaining something, or, asking a passive question. Tell them directly what it is you want, but do it through leading. So if you were going to do Pocket Dump Tuesday, for example, all from the top of our head, take the crap that's in your pocket out, take a picture of it, post it, and then very directly state, hey, what's in your pocket today? Here's mine, or something to that effect that's going to get anyone that's following your page to replicate what you've already emulated for them, which is a photo of your gear. And then, the thing where I think most people miss on social media is that they completely forget or ignore the first word.
Social.
It's social.
Yep.
So when people do engage, think about it just like a freaking one-on-one face-to-face conversation. If you walk up to somebody and said hello, and they said hello back, and then you actually entered into a dialogue, and zero body language, zero facial expression, zero words come out of their mouth, they just sit there and stare at you with a blank face like a robot, how long is it going to be until you take the social cue to just, go about your business and walk away? Not very long. So don't be that guy on social media where people actually do engage with you, and they make a comment, they like something, they submit a photo, they use your hashtag. Don't be a prick. Reach back out. I know that it might feel awkward and it might feel weird at first until you get used to it. But once you start to see the results of actually actively engaging socially with these people on these platforms, you'll be amazed at the response and the following and the loyalty that you really breed out of that relationship, because it is a relationship. It's not a transaction.
Well, in sticking to the example, the Pocket Dump Tuesday or whatever, engage people as they're sending you pictures. Say like, "Oh man, Larry, what kind of holster is that?" Even if even if you recognize the holster, ask them. Make them feel like, "Oh yeah, I just got this thing." Engage them, and you're gonna see them. Really, that puts a face on it. That makes it personal, and people are gonna be more loyal to you. So.
Yeah, and always tie it back to some tiny, it doesn't have to be an elaborate story, but, for example, a lot of those pocket dumps, there's going to be a knife involved, for example, and most of them are going to be, you don't see many fixed blade or any of that kind of stuff, but either way, the knives have evolved to look very tactical, very, whatever, elite and whatnot, but don't forget where we came from. At least for me, I can remember my first pocket knife was my grandfather's buck knife, basically. And then there was a folding version too. And, it was nothing special other than kind of like that old bone handle, 2-blade, whatever. So if someone happens to post something that you have a story that goes along with or that relates to historically, oh yeah, I can remember when that was my first knife, or, whatever the stories happen to be. But come up with some way to connect and interact with that individual, with some form of emotion.
Well, and there's where you can do some of your polls too. What do you carry, fixed blade or folding? Or how do you carry your firearm, appendix?
Yeah, what position do you carry?
Yeah, what position? Inside the waistband, outside the waistband, open carry,
Yeah. What kind of scope reticle do you prefer?
Yeah, just engage. And not only are you gathering some intel if you happen to also sell firearms, but even if not, it doesn't matter. You're engaging your audience and making them want to check back in on your page and see what you got going on. So don't always hype your courses, but through engaging your audience, you're actually that's part of this crowdsourcing thing.
Right. Make it about them.
Yeah, through engaging with them, that's and creating the following. And the regular comments back and forth, you're actually increasing your reach.
Yeah, the last thing that I had thought of as it came to crowdsourcing, again, from the instruction standpoint, is really not forgetting to ask questions, essentially. And what I mean by that is asking the questions of the students as they're sitting in your classes, because whatever their questions are and whatever consistent questions you get throughout the class, you need to take note of those and preemptively put that content into your curriculum anyway. Because what will happen is, if you're answering questions that they sort of had or were going to have, and as soon as you give them an answer or make a statement or give an example of a question that's like, oh yeah, I thought about that too, or that's great, that answered the question I didn't have to ask. All those little pieces of value that you're adding to the conversation ahead of time, all they're going to do is elevate your level of expertise in their eyes. It's going to, take you up that ladder of trust, essentially. And the higher you can get on that, you can guarantee the longer the future relationship with that individual is going to be.
Well, and we'll take like NRA courses, for example. To do an NRA course, it's paint by numbers. That's boring. All it is talking and demonstrating. You're not adding anything to it outside of the content put in front of you. Don't be a robot. Engage them. Take your own show notes and then apply them next time. And you don't have to stick to the script. You may have to cover the material, but you can have your own script also to hit on points that the NRA misses, or to just add a personality to it.
Yeah. So maybe to recap all of the random things we've talked about on this episode, minus the rabbit holes. So crowdsourcing is all about figuring out and finding ways to engage your audience at every aspect of the business, every touch point, to figure out where they are, what they're thinking, how they're feeling, what they would like to see differently, and how they might enjoy interacting with you in the future. Asking and requesting and giving them permission to have content first, and produce the content for you, having them share it back to you. What else? Taking pictures, bringing them into the life. Bill's ideas of creating kind of a cadence or a schedule with your social media where you're asking and engaging them directly. And questions, making sure that you take note of people's questions, understand the trends, and incorporate that context and content into your curriculum and into your the way you go about your business ahead of time to elevate the level of expertise that you have in their eyes. Anything I missed in there that you can think of, Bill?
I don't think so. That was pretty much it.
All right, guys. We still have our contest going on. So through the month of August, we will draw the 3 winners of our review campaign that we have going on for the podcast. So make sure you find your way to iTunes and review the podcast and like it and subscribe to it. That's basically how we get exposure in the world, how more people can find this content valuable. And what you'll win, we'll select 3 winners at the end of August for a free consultation with Bill and myself, whether it be on Skype, whether it be over the phone, or any other means necessary to meet you where you are in your business and see how we can help.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye.
To find out more, you can find us on Facebook at Flashbang Creative, or you can visit us on our website at flashbangcreative.us.